right, let's get started. Good evening. It is 7:01 on February 4th, 2021. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Royal Oak Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services Advisor Board to order. Due to the virtual nature of the meeting, all voting and attendance will be done through roll call. Going through as everyone appears on my screen, please state aye and where you are broadcasting from. Starting with Commissioner Macy.
Aye, and I am broadcasting from Royal Oak.
All right, Mr. Ross. You are muted, Mr. Ross, or not connected to audio. I'll come back to him. Mr. Vukic.
You had it. Hi, I am broadcasting from Royal Oak, Michigan.
Mr. Rapinski. Okay, we'll come back. Ms. Chow.
Hi, can you hear me, Sarah?
Yes, I can, Crystal.
Okay, I am broadcasting from Royal Oak.
Okay, Mr. Ross, I heard your laugh, so we'll come back to you now.
Aye, and I'm in Royal Oak as well.
Okay, Mr. Rapinski, we see you again. We're doing roll call. I think you're on mute.
Yes, I'm back. I got it fixed. So
Okay.
Sarah?
Was it? Yes.
Susan is having problems with the link, so I'm trying to send her. Not Sarah, Susan. Yeah, did I say Susan is having problems with the link? So I'm trying to real quick send her the public link to log in. So if you want to proceed, but I just got an email from her about that.
Okay. And
So
myself.
I'm an I, and I'm in Royal Oak. So
Okay, thanks, Mike. And I am Sarah from Royal Oak. So thank you. So moving on to the next agenda item is approval of the meeting minutes from January sent to us by John. Anyone have any questions, discussion?
I'll move approval.
I'd like to entertain a motion by Commissioner Macy to approve the minutes.
second.
All right, any discussion on that motion? All right, then I'll call for a vote in the order that everyone appears on my screen. Crystal.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
John. Joe.
Aye.
Joseph, sorry. Ryan.
Aye.
Commissioner Macy. Melanie.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Sarah Kininger. All right, motion passes unanimously. So moving on to the next agenda item, item number 3, which is the Commissioner Macy or Commissioner City comments, Commission comments.
Okay, so I think we've only had one actual meeting, City Commission meeting since our last meeting, but we did have strategic planning last weekend, which some very interesting pieces came up in that. It was an all day look at the strategy for the city for this next year and perhaps farther, and looking at what some of our major goals will be. So coming out of that, I'm going to focus on that. There's a lot, but I think I'm going to focus on the things that are matter to us in this committee. One thing is that we, as a city commission on the strategic planning last year, had proposed exploring a facilities manager. So as you can imagine, we have all these various facilities around the city, like obviously there's City Hall, but then there's also the ice arena, which is a totally different building in DPS. And different people have responsibilities for like maintenance at those, and who gets called and what the responsibilities are have been kind of a mishmash. And we had this thought that there could be some more unification of that process under a single person who could then be managing overall the operations and maintenance of all the facilities. So that didn't exactly happen last year. I think largely because of COVID, that didn't really come off the ground. But we looked at it, we're looking at it again this year. And part of the discussion was about whether or not that should be, so I should say this, we all discussed these things in small groups. So it wasn't like a full group discussion. So I'm really bringing you from what my small group discussed. And then I was peeking at the notes from the other group, but this is mostly my group, which John was in, High Five Group 2. And so one of the things we talked about in our group was about the facilities manager and the possibility of that being one of the department heads within DPS would then have all the responsibilities for that. And in doing that, we might need to make some shifts in terms of how the department is organized. And so I think Aaron is sort of looking into that and figuring out what would make the most sense going forward on how we can divide those responsibilities up. But I think it would be a benefit. I mean, obviously the city staff, but I think to residents generally to have that more of a streamlined process. So that's one thing that was discussed. Another thing that has been an annual discussion is how do we talk about user or resident satisfaction with city services? So every 2 years we do this survey of a statistically significant sample of the city. It goes out like 1,500 people, I think. Then we get the responses back. Because of the mail delay, actually, we haven't received them back. We usually receive them before the strategic planning. Oh, all right, Sarah. I hope you said good things about Parks and Rec. So that we're looking at that, but also just the day to day, like, are people happy with the services they receive? Yes, that's what I like to hear. The services they receive from the building department. Are they happy with the parks? Like, how are we measuring that? And the answer is that we're not really measuring it very well. And so we're talking about ways to do that. And one thing that's been talked about both in the Parks Department, but also elsewhere, is about having some kind of a system, like a software system set up that would allow people to put like a centralized system. So instead of having like, a notebook where someone writes down trash can full at Whittier Park and then it gets crossed off later, but a more centralized system where we can collect all of the events that are happening and then also, hopefully get some user data based on the responses. So if someone puts in a response, we can maybe automatically send them an email or a text later, like, please rate the response or something like that. So that's another thing that we'll be looking at. I think like parks specifically could use it, but I think there's a lot of departments and we might be looking at how we can do that holistically across the city. One thing that I hadn't realized until John brought it up is that this is also our year to redo the Parks and Rec Master Plan. So we had a 5-year Parks and Rec Master Plan, and we get to do it again. So I'm not sure. It was news to me this weekend, so I'm just sort of starting to noodle around with it now. But last time we did a citizen survey, and it was kind of fancy. So I'm looking forward to that and to having taking a new look at all of our parks, especially because so much has happened in the past 5 years. And this is how we set what our priorities are. Like, what do we need? What are people still hoping to find in our parks? Do we need more basketball courts? Do we need more tennis courts? Or do we need them in certain areas of the city? And what's our priority? So I think that will be an interesting piece of it. One thing that I think we discussed at this meeting last month, but came up also at strategic planning, is that, as you know, the CDBG, the federal funds for the community development block grant, they come every year and talk about different ways we could spend that money. And one of them is on parks and park equipment within those zones in the city, the CDBG zones. But we're actually running out. So we've done such a good job of addressing our parks in those areas that we really only have 4 parks left that are in there that we haven't addressed yet. And so we need to start thinking about, like, the ones that fall outside of those zones haven't gotten as much attention. And of course, we can't revamp 50 parks every year, but we need to start thinking about how we're going to be funding some of those other parks that don't fall within those zones. And I know we talked about that a little bit last month, but that came up again. And then the city manager brought up the idea that we should be thinking about how we could best partner perhaps with some of the community resources we already have and some of the businesses that are within Royal Oak, that maybe we haven't done a great job in the past of kind of figuring out things that we have, goals that we have in common, and trying to come together on that. And just in the park side, one piece of that is that the drainage in the parks is an ongoing issue that we're all aware of. And partnering with the Royal Oak Football Club to see, they've already done work on Red Run. I don't know if new people may not know this, but several years back, ROFC, with permission and working with the Parks Department, went to Red Run, which was quite, flooded all the time, and did, like, I don't know, some magic. They dug holes and then put stuff in there. I don't know, something that made it playable. And so now there's that park is less swampy, and can be used for ROFC, but also can be better used just by the residents. So looking at those things. And yes, Sarah, I think that's a great idea, having the dog park. Sorry, I'm not seeing all the chat comments, but I just saw that one. having the dog park be partner for the drainage issues would be, I think the dogs need a pond though. I really think they need a pond. I know, spoken to someone with a white dog. So like, maybe it's not a good idea.
We can get the parks to drain to the pond.
That's right. All the parks will go to the dog pond. We now have a plan in place. So that's on the park side. Oh wait, and then this didn't exactly come up at strategic planning, but I think we might be talking about this later. Forgive me if we talked about this last month. I can't remember what happened to what meeting, but the downtown park is over budget. Like we're $1.8 million over budget, which is a lot for that little park. So there's a lot of scrambling going on and working with the DDA. And the question out there is like, are we going to cut items from the park, or are we going to figure out how to find the money? And there's no answer to that yet. But if someone, since you're all on this board, if someone asks you, I think the priority for most people is to keep keep pretty much everything that we have there and figure out how we're going to maybe save some money. I think John was saying a couple things they looked at already about, like, fewer fancy finishes on the concrete, that sort of thing, like ways to value engineer it so that it, the pieces that probably won't take away from the park overall, but will allow us to get
Melody, can I ask a quick question? I
Yeah.
hate to interrupt, but was there any discussion how we ended up $1 million plus over budget on that? I mean,
you think that's a big amount?
There's a task force, and the task force.
Yeah,
the last on this.
Yeah, the last time the task force met, we were not over budget, and I know that we added things for the library. I think was some things that got bucketed in at the last minute. That we were
blame the library.
Well, there was like.
Don't blame the library.
I'm not blaming the library. I'm just saying there was screening that was not originally in the initial plan, and then they had thought they had extra money, so then it got included. So I mean, I don't know, Aaron. I haven't been to a downtown task force meeting in a long time. So
I don't think it's the task force. I don't think it's the city staff, but I will tell you that there's a lot of finger pointing going around, because 1.8 million is quite a lot to be over for a $5 million park. So yeah, the DDA, this was brought to the DDA's attention because like they funded a lot of this park, and they're not happy. So they're kind of they're interested in calling the designers of the carpet basically and saying, what happened here? I don't know if Aaron or John have more to add, or if they want to duck their heads out of this conversation, but.
Yeah, definitely wasn't over budget last meeting.
Right. There's a lot to point to, not any one thing in particular. Among other things, I think people were surprised at the cost of commodities, which you only really find out once you put it out to bid and see what people are willing to ask for to do that. And I think maybe to a certain degree, there was a little bit of underestimation in the cost of labor in that case. But, going into the bidding, it didn't seem like it would be that far off. There were some that had the opinion that it might have been, but we were all surprised by the extent of it. So we're working, though, as Commissioner Macy said, solution. It's in nobody's interest to par down the park to nothing. That's no matter which way it goes, that's not the direction we're working toward right now.
So that's okay. So that's strategic planning on the park side. On the senior side of the strategic planning. So in terms of money, which these are the things that will impact the budget. Things that were talked about were both the senior center and the task force, the AARP task force, and making sure that they're funded for the things that they're going to need to do going forward, which we at the moment aren't quite sure what that is, but I think there's a commitment from the city to have funding because there will be a need, and we're aware of that. For the senior center, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of asks coming out right now from the senior center. I think Paige has been pretty happy with what she's been able to accomplish, and she now has her second full-time employee, which I think has been really great. So I don't know if other people are talking about this, but there had been that talk about the paved path through the Arboretum around the senior center, and I think that is probably the priority in terms of infrastructure at this stage. Like, remember, we put money in this last year for new items for the kitchen. And I don't think there's a lot of other, as far as I'm aware of, and no one seemed to be saying it, of other things that they're looking to add to the senior center itself. And then in terms of senior outreach, this was very exciting to me. As people have been on the board know, we've been wrestling for a long time with the issue of how to reach out to seniors who are not maybe getting it through technology. And the idea of mailings being really expensive, and also like, can we do them every month? How is that going to work? And we already have the senior newsletter. So there's been a lot of wrestling about that. And then an idea came out that was one we hadn't contemplated, I don't think, before, which is to set up like a kind of a phone number, a specific phone number in City Hall, where the city newsletter, which there is a city newsletter every week that goes out via email.
Sorry.
That's, you're fine. We're all familiar with the dog problem. That goes out every week. If you're subscribed to the email newsletter, you should see this. It says, any events that are coming up, any news. But anyway, taking that and reading it as like a message into this phone number so that people can proactively call in every week and find out the news and then have this phone number, like this would just be a one line, like, for the latest on city happenings, call this number. And it could be like on our TV station, like on the loop on the bottom. It could be in the newsletter. It could be, pretty much everywhere. We could put flyers up for it. And then people who are not doing that, they could reach out, and like the start of it could possibly just be the call in and getting the report, but then we can add to it, like maybe, dial 2 to
Can the
find out.
person with the dog please mute?
Oh.
I think I did. She's done.
And then like press 2 for information on roses, or press 3 to report a concern. And so kind of have it be almost a one-stop shop for things that people could be looking for if they are not accessing the internet regularly. So again, it's like not a perfect solution, but it seemed to me like such low-hanging fruit. Like, gosh, why haven't we been doing this all along? So I've now, neither the city manager nor Judy Davids, the community engagement specialist, were in my group, but I have since spoken to both of them about this. And they both were like, yeah, I think we could do that. That doesn't seem to be hard. I'm not sure if they're waiting for us to make a resolution about it. Sort of hoping they were just going to do it, but we'll keep following up with them about that. And the city manager was saying, like, another possibility is that part of it could, if you call in, you could also, press 9 to sign up for emergency alerts. And then when we need to get information out, that could be, because right now we have app blasts and Facebook blasts. It could be, we could like send a text or an email or whatever is the best, or a robocall, whatever they choose, in cases where we need to get information out fast, like maybe for like things like the lead and the water issue. Okay, I think that's it. I think I'm done. 20 minutes later.
Thank you, Commissioner Macy. We appreciate your comments. Does anyone have any other questions for Commissioner Macy and her report? All right, thanks. I'm sorry, was that a yes? I felt like I heard something. I'm trying to read signs here. Okay, moving on. So now moving on to the next agenda item, which is public comment. Just like in our in-person meetings, we limit speaking time to 3 minutes, which is standard for all city commission or committee meetings. Please use the raise hand icon. We'll click on that and you'll be able to bring you off mute to address the board.
Sarah, I got one person, Janice Wagman. I'm going to allow her to talk. If you want to unmute, you're all free.
Okay, I wasn't going to speak tonight, but after listening to Melanie talk about what went on in strategic planning, I attended that meeting, but when you break off into groups, I can't really tell what's going on. I'm just thrilled to hear that the city commission is moving forward on that after me basically asking at numerous locations and meetings to reach out to seniors. They aren't technological. I'm glad to see that something's finally happening on it. So thank you.
Anything else, Janice?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, great. Thank you. No other public comment, John?
That's it.
All right, public comment is closed. Moving on to item number 6, which is new business. The first thing is the appointment to the downtown park task force. Surprise.
Now we've made it so attractive.
Yes, everybody wants to be on the task force and solve the $1.8 million question. All right.
Someone just needs to appoint someone, and then obviously make a vote on that.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Crystal Chow.
I'll second it. Crystal, do you want to do it?
Yes, I do. I advise Sarah that if there is no one else that's interested, I would be happy to participate.
Before we go forward, do any of our new members, are you interested? I'm willing to nominate Crystal, but I guess if we want to open it up to anyone else. The Downtown Task Force is advising, sitting on and advising on the new downtown park that will be in the place of where the old police station, old city hall is, that will be demolished. So if anyone's interested, we'd certainly like to entertain it. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not interested, but I would
Okay.
be willing to assist Crystal if she needs as an alternate perhaps, or just as because I was deeply involved with the Normandy Oaks Park. I was chair of that task force for 5 years or more, and I have some working knowledge and experience on how that process went for that park. And if you would need anything from me, Crystal, don't hesitate to reach out.
I do appreciate that, Mike, because I was on the Normandy Oaks Task Force as one of 2 delegates from this board. We have not met since I've joined the board about 2 or 3 years ago. And I honestly don't even know my status on that task force. So
Yeah, that task force was pretty well became moot as the park became functional and online and some, nearing completion. So there was no need to, all the financial issues were worked out ahead of time. The plans, design, construction, all that was, done and in progress. The only thing left to do is to cut a ribbon. So, I think we're going to do that this year, right, John?
Yep.
For the Downtown Park Task Force, we have gone through the design phase. I think that's, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, we sent that out for bid, and that's how we got to the slight deficit, little over budget issue little challenge that we've come across, right? We, as a task force, so I think the next time we meet, we'd be just reviewing the proposals that came back for who would be doing the work.
Were you on that task force also, Sarah?
I am on that task force, yes.
Okay, and who is the chair of that group?
I think it's
Commissioner
Commissioner Perut.
Okay.
The next item would be to take the recommendations to the city commission.
So we, as a task force, don't meet, right?
No, as far as I wasn't,
Okay.
I wasn't part of the process for the design, but as far as I understood, the downtown task force really had its biggest task in doing the assisting design. So if anything, and I'm not saying this to predict anything, if anything were to change with design in any significant way, in those circumstances, it definitely would go back to the task force. So I don't see us getting there, so.
Yeah, I agreed. I don't know what the process is, so I just show up at the
I just wanted to
meetings.
clarify, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Joe, Susan, Ryan, any interest in potentially joining the task force that may or may not meet?
I would potentially be interested in joining the task force. I was actually, I've only been in Royal Oak now for a year and a half, but in Birmingham, where he came from before, I was on the Shane Park development. So, I mean, I do have some, some history there in Birmingham.
I think I think Krista will do just fine, and so I would be on board with her taking that position.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so we have 2 people. This is where I didn't watch this part in the past videos. So how do we move forward? I'm just asking. I'm gonna be honest, Aaron.
You would need to
Well,
make.
we have
make-
we have one nominee that's been
Seconded.
Seconded, and then,
the other one is not.
okay. Do we want to nominate the other person?
So I think we're in the discussion phase. Can I have discussion? Can I ask?
Yes. Absolutely.
So I think I heard Crystal say she wanted to do it if no one else was interested. And it sounds like Ryan is interested. So I wanted to clarify, like, was that really kind of like, I'll do it if no one else is interested, or does she really want to do it? Because I think that makes a difference. If she's interested and wants to do it, great. But if she's only kind of doing it to fill in a gap, then it seems like maybe we could ask someone else.
I can't answer that for her. Crystal?
Are there two positions or are there one? Because from what,
There's two. I
Okay.
have one, and I haven't given up my spot yet. I guess I can. I don't know if it matters. Like if it's
There's one opening, right?
there's one opening for the two spots that we hold on this board, on this task force.
to answer your question, Commissioner Macy, I would say that I do have interest in doing it. I just don't have interest in a situation where I would prefer to be, I guess, appointed instead of like running, if that makes sense. So if Ryan, if I am happy for you to take the position, if that's what you're interested in, I have no problem. If you would prefer to, because like I'm on this Normandy Oak task force and I've actually never had to meet. So it's not as if like, if that makes any difference to you, I feel as if, you would welcome an opportunity to be on something as well.
I would like to do that if nobody else objects.
We would in fact need a second then. Correct?
Well,
Yeah.
we think we,
I think we have to vote on Crystal first.
Yeah, there is a
You
standing,
have to
you're right.
vote on Crystal first, and then if that
Well, I
doesn't,
guess, yeah. Wait, I guess I don't know.
if that doesn't make, then you have to then reappoint someone else.
Is Crystal withdrawing her name?
I'm not withdrawing my name. I just would prefer to not have to be, like, if there's an availability, if there's a spot for me, then I would love to do it. But I'm not interested in like petitioning for position, if that makes any sense.
So you need a vote now.
yeah, got that, John. I'm trying to think. Sorry. All right. So I could relinquish my position, right, on the task force. I can step down, and then Ryan and Crystal can take it.
Well, let's do the first thing first.
You gotta do the vote first.
Okay.
Well, now I'm not sure that that's right, because like, if we have to be allowed to have multiple nominations before we just vote on one when there's only one spot. So I know I'm the one who said it, but I think I'm wrong.
And
Start
Sarah,
over.
you have to formally resign your position to the city clerk or to somebody that
Okay.
you are no longer want to be on the force. So that has to be formalized.
Okay. So we need to nominate someone. I'm super excited that I don't have any idea how to navigate this part of the meeting.
Wait,
Well,
Sarah, you have a motion and then you have a support for Crystal, so.
Right, I understand, but I think we made that prematurely.
Well,
where I'm at.
so we can offer more discussion on that motion, and then there's anybody can nominate somebody at this point and just carry on the discussion. I mean, if there's additional action, otherwise, if that's all that's left, and there's no additional comment, then that does need to get voted on. Correct, Mike?
That's what I think too.
I
mean,
believe so. I believe the motion was on the table to nominate Crystal, and it was seconded. I think that needs to be voted on. And then we move on to, if there is, in fact, a second opening, then that goes into procedure.
So that is the procedure, but I'm just saying, like, if there's only one spot, it has to be possible that we could nominate more than one person for that spot. However, we have not yet done that. So if we're at the point we're at now, we've only nominated one person, and if there's no more discussion, then we can vote.
Okay, so plan of attack here. We will
Hold the vote.
we'll take the vote on Crystal. I will formally resign, and next month, Ryan, we'll vote you into my position. How's that? Like,
Sounds
we
famous.
will do succession planning here. How's that?
I love it.
Okay,
That sounds good.
there.
Nice
I will.
idea.
Okay, that's my resolution in the moment here. So let's go ahead and move forward. We have a motion on the table to have Crystal join the task force. So I'll do a roll call vote, and I will start at the bottom of my screen, which is Susan. I couldn't hear you. Okay, Joe,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Crystal.
If I can vote for myself.
Oh, you vote for yourself. I voted for myself in this position, so you vote for yourself. Ryan,
Aye.
Melanie.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Ryan, we'll carry
That's
this
fine.
agenda item forward, and we'll get you on the task force. All right. Next, moving on to the next item. Hopefully, it'll be way less confusing and awkward. Parks and Recreation year in review. I'm gonna turn that over, I think, to probably Aaron. I don't know who's doing it, or John, one of the two.
Mr. Fideli, we'll give that one to him. He did a fine job summarizing our activities this past year, and I'll let him present that.
Awesome, thank you.
I can assure you there's going to be no vote on this, as a lot of this stuff has already happened. So,
Thank God, because clearly I can't navigate that well.
so obviously, the past year was difficult with COVID and everything. Pretty much shut down a lot of businesses in recreation as well. But with that being said, we did accomplish a lot throughout the parks and through our facilities and everything like that. And hopefully you all got the chance to read over the accomplishments. The senior center, they got their kitchen upgrades. And then we are installing an air condenser. So total upgrades for that center for this year was about $97,000. And there's still more upgrades to come. They're still are willing to purchase, or still need to purchase another kitchen equipment for this upcoming fiscal year. So there's still more upgrades to come, and hopefully we can get the Arboretum Trail through, and then potentially an outdoor fitness equipment. I think that'll be beneficial for that center. So still more upgrades to potentially come from there. If you look at recreation, the parks and everything, you can see there's quite a laundry list of things that were upgraded. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there is a key. Obviously, those that weren't starred, those came from the general fund. Those that had, what is it? 1 star was CDBG funded. Those that had 2 stars were kind of a little bit of general fund and grants. And then the 3-star was a private public partnership. And that totaled about $2.6 million for the year. And then our capital improvement projects included the roof at the Salter Center, the senior center parking lots and sidewalk curbs, the ice arena roof replacement, the Warden Park baseball lights, the Royal Oak Golf Course parking lot surfacing, cart path, and also the netting on holes 3, 4, and 5. And then Normandy Oaks is in there, both phase 1 and 2, as well as a partnership with the Oakland County Parks and Recreation Department. So with all that being said, the capital improvement projects came just shy of $6 million. With a total upgrade cost of almost $8.8 million for the whole recreation department. Something to really look at is, we talk about funding and everything, but the disparity between what we're able to accomplish with the CDBG funds and then what we're able to accomplish with the general fund. Even though CIP is part of the general fund, the park upgrades for the general fund were $248,000, and we really strongly rely on the community development block grants to help upgrade a lot of our parks. You can see the $2 million we use from the community development block grants. So if you look on the next couple of pages, you can kind of just see a breakdown of programming, what we had programming wise. we had a lot of new successful programs through this COVID. You know, our team, and I applaud our team for thinking outside the box and creating new programs that, you know, we normally wouldn't probably have come up with if it wasn't for this pandemic. You know, one of them was our virtual cooking class, which was an extreme hit. There's over 100 plus participants. And then I think we're probably going to carry that into our regular programming once our facility opens up to more people. We had curbside meals at the senior center, 200 plus participants. I mean, they had the Irish Tavern, they had Chicken Shack, they had a Thanksgiving meal. So they did a great job with that, as well as those take-home cookie kits. You know, they had over 200 participants, and their latest one, the Valentine Day cookie kit, I mean, that sold out in a heartbeat. So great job to those staff. We were able to continue our transportation halfway through the year once things kind of lighten up a little bit. Like I said, I won't go through all this, but you know, we saw a huge increase in outdoor activities for recreation, as you can see, between the pavilion rentals and the field rentals. And then you can look at the golf course, their numbers, their rounds of golf that they had. The golf course and the golf center were one of the two facilities that were able to open up relatively quick into the pandemic. So they took well advantage of that, with almost 22,000 rounds of golf being played. They usually average anywhere between 15 and 18,000 rounds of golf a year. So we're seeing a lot of people taking interest in, you know, activities that they normally wouldn't during this time, which is good. But other than that, if you guys need me to go through anything else, let me know. But that's kind of a brief synopsis of the year in review.
Commissioner Macy, questions,
I'm just curious.
thoughts, comments?
Curious about the golf. Like, so they had more than usual. What was their income comparatively? Like, was it actually up?
Yep. So if you guys, I know I sent it over kind of late, but if you looked at their net profit, I think they were at 80,000. So they had a pretty good year.
What's normal?
You know, I don't have last year's handy, but I can provide that for next meeting or send in an email.
Melanie, just from memory, the last few years, they operate pretty much close to break even or even at a slight loss over the last several years. So a net income of 81,000 is pretty good for the golf course. And I think a lot of that, Joe and his group did a great job of getting things up and running and managing with proper protocols. And there was just a lot of people playing golf during the week because they weren't working early on during the pandemic. There were, you know, people that were laid off, or, you know, people that were working from home and were doing some of their work in the out of doors. So, you know, he had a much higher weekday demand for rounds than would have been normal when people were working inside. So I think that contributed to the healthy net income.
We better get them a new building, right, Mike?
I just want my little patio, Aaron, that outside. We'll move some dirt around, get that little patio set up so my league has some place to drink a few Pepsis after our league finishes.
Will do, Mike.
Mike, I will say I was trying to get Joe to come speak at this meeting, but he was undergoing some surgery today. So he'll be here for next week or next meeting.
Yeah, I've been in touch with Joe. I know he's had some health things to deal with. So hopefully everything works out for him.
Any more questions, comments, thoughts for John or Aaron on the year in review? Thank you for doing that, John. We appreciate the overview.
Sure.
So our favorite topic, senior outreach.
So Commissioner Macy touched on one of the avenues that we could use, and I think that's a great idea to have a designated phone line that kind of plays information for the seniors. But there was also one other thing that may be helpful too, is utilizing the WROK channel and displaying that number on that channel throughout every single slide that gets presented. It's a basic channel package, so everyone should receive it in Royal Oak. Also, designating times throughout the week and days on when particular senior outreach is televised. I kind of made this reference where it's almost like, back in the olden days when you would watch the TV guide, and if you were looking for something on channel 10 and you missed it, you had to watch the whole screen kind of repeat over, until it got back to channel 10. Well, I'd hate to put something on there and have people sit in front of the TV for 3 hours, look at all the programming, and then, miss or have to sit there for that long time. So we can designate, hey, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays between, 10 and 12 and 4 and 6 are going to be items regarding the seniors and the senior programming, senior outreach. I think that would also be a good avenue to hit, other than the press the printing that we have, the Facebook, the phone number, any sort of pamphlets that we put out at the city hall, library, senior center, recreation, DPS, stuff like that.
Do we know like if the two large senior centers have like lobby, like TVs in the lobby where we could have it displayed there as well? Like, I'm just think that seems to be a good chunk of population that lives there.
They do have lobbies. I don't know if I can picture the TV or.
There is a TV that's City Hall. Is that what we're asking?
No, the senior living facilities.
Okay.
Lots of TVs in City Hall.
Yeah.
You turn around, you run into a TV. One more piece. Are you done, John, on senior outreach? Because
and then we have a question from Janice. Does WROK broadcast on Comcast? I think that it does. It's just part of, even if you don't have cable, it's basic.
Yeah, it's a
right?
local channel. Everyone gets it. If they don't have a TV package, they should, if they have the rabbit ears and whatnot.
Thank you, John. Sorry, Commissioner Macy.
Right. Although I did think that there was some group that didn't get WROK, but maybe I could be wrong about that. And then the other piece of senior outreach that we talked about last week or last month was the fact that we found someone outside the city who was interested in volunteering to get like a phone tree essentially going, where we could check in on seniors and build relationships in that way. So I can't remember if I had met with her before last time or not, but we've now talked and are working on reaching out to some of the other groups who've done this in other localities around here, and talking to them about like how to get started, because as we've discussed here before, there's a laundry list of issues to kind of hurdles to jump in order to get to make sure that it's safe and reliable, and that we follow up. We don't want to start this program and then make one phone call and have that be the end of it, and have people be looking for that call to the next call. So anyway, that's still underway. And then the teens and technology that we had talked about, like having the teens give seniors some help and with technology issues with some programming. Maya and I have touched base a couple times on that, but I don't think nothing else has been done. I think Maya's reaching out to Miss Reimel, but that reminds me that we talked about these issues at the city school liaison meeting. I should have said this in my notes. And it turns out Ms. Reimel is not the right person anymore, because she's now the assistant principal at the high school. So we're looking for who that person would be. But they said that they would connect us. Sorry. But frankly, that one has just been like Maya and I have been ships in the night. So we just haven't connected on that. That's all my senior outreach.
Anybody or thoughts, comments, ideas that they want to bring up around how we can do a better job of reaching out to our seniors, especially during this pandemic?
Pretty excited we have these two new ideas.
Yes, I agree. I'm not
like we finally have new ideas.
Yes, I agree. I think they're super exciting. I just want to make sure that the whole group, like maybe had a
No.
major brainstorm in the middle of the night the other night, and just, we're waiting until February 4th to talk about it at this meeting to blow our minds.
I totally
how we
agree.
can do senior outreach.
Because these two came up during a brainstorm session. So what we need is more brainstorming on it.
Right. Oh, jeez. Okay. Doesn't sound like that. If you do, certainly let John know. We can continue this conversation. I think this will be a continuous topic on our agenda for a while, as we've talked about it. Budget topics. That sounds exciting. Everyone loves a budget.
Yeah, so as I mentioned last meeting, Aaron and I are, pretty much in the midst of budgeteering and everything. So the last meeting I mentioned, if you guys had any ideas, take the time to think of any ideas that you would like to kind of see the Parks and Recreation Department kind of move towards. If you guys had any ideas, would love to hear them today, and always work to add stuff and improve.
Question.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So John, as a new member to the group, and I understand this might be outside of the traditional scope or purview of this group, but do we have any say in like some of the flexible seating and dining options that we're seeing being promoted around town? I don't know if that'd be more of like a central business district kind of issue, but just the I feel like there's a big missed opportunity with utilizing our space for alternate ways to get people to congregate and enjoy meals or enjoy a drink or enjoy a night out. And just curious if we have any way of providing any input to those decisions.
I don't think so. I think that's
not as a group. Sorry to interrupt you. Not as a group, but certainly individually. Yeah, you could have that voice, and decisions like that often are made with the central business district, the downtown.
It's a DDA issue. I think that would be the preferred avenue to. I know a lot of people on the DDA. Joe, if you want some names, and actually their meetings and agendas are public as well. And they're published. So if you need to have some input there, I would suggest some public comment at a DDA meeting.
Arguably, when the downtown park is in play, we could have some input on like how the downtown park is utilized, and so that's. But I agree with what everyone has said. Like you could go to DDA, reach out to members individually, or go to the meeting itself and make public comment. Like if you have ideas, don't keep them secret, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Anything park specific? Senior specific? Recreation specific?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sarah and Aaron and John, that my pet area is the golf course, and we've done so much. We've done so much improvement in there in the last couple of years. It's really helped, and I think that's contributed to the increased rounds too. It's a more desirable course to play when we have cart paths virtually throughout the whole course, even though they're not wearing as well as we had hoped. But some improvements in and around the clubhouse are really needed, and I know you probably have heard from Joe, and I'm not going to go into any big details, and I've already told you my little area that I'm concerned about. But, you know, for those that don't know, we completely resurfaced the parking lot last year, at the end of the year before, I can't remember, it's a big blur, but that has really helped, you know, in getting people in, being able to park and move around. You know, they've done a great job of taking care of the course. Irrigation has always been an issue. I don't know that's one we'll ever solve there because of the cost. They dug some wells years ago in the hopes of being able to get water into the ponds and then use that water to irrigate the course. But then the wells turned out to have a high salinity. So the water was not usable for the most part. But I think anything we can do for the golf course to make it more enjoyable for the residents and our guests, people that use it from outside the city. So that would, you know, without being specific, anything you can do to get some money that way.
Crystal, I saw your hand first, so you go.
Just to echo what Mike's sentiments were about the golf course, I do recall seeing those notes about the golf course's budget from John's notes from his annual review or some of the documents that he sent us. And I was just curious if anybody even remembered the last time that they came to us recently, I want to say like in December, requesting a price increase because it seems that they've actually, is that different?
Yeah, that's
So-
the golf. That's the golf center, not the golf course.
That was
So
the
there's-
driving range.
The driving range is when Glenn came and we gave him a price increase. That's for
Yeah.
the driving range and the putt. That's separate from the golf course itself.
Course.
Two different
Okay.
management groups. Two management groups, right, John?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not as if there's like additional money that we've been just like that would go towards this improvements. I guess I know this isn't like nobody wants to talk about this, but just the fact that operations and maintenance is a cost that we have to be mindful of. So when we do review budgets, I don't know if there's any way that we even factor in like a 20-year kind of like just like when you do the budgeting, if that's even a line item to say like every year for the next 20 years, this is what it's going to cost if we choose this option to maintain this equipment that we choose to invest. But I don't even know like what my input, how that's valuable, but that's just something that I would say to keep in mind. When we compare across the board what we could do, when we look at options, if we think about that aspect.
Melanie.
That's it. And Sarah.
Oh, everyone's freezing up.
Yeah, so I agree. And I mean, it is a line item, but I think one thing that we're seeing, Crystal, which is I think what you're talking about, is that we're putting cooler things in each park. And that's, I think, thanks to this body, actually, we've gotten some really interesting and new items in the parks, but that means different types of maintenance, right? When every park had the exact same equipment, we could swap them out. We could, only have one person trained in it. So I think that's going to be an issue going forward as well. Like, as we talked about, the same thing we talked about with funding and not being able to work on some of these other parks that aren't in CDBG, we're also going to have that exact issue you're talking about with maintenance. And so my pet project is, I think we need more staff. So I always feel like the services that are coming from the things that we are overlooking here. So the Parks and Rec and the senior services, those are the services that have the most impact on our residents. And those are the things that people see, the things that they care about. And if we want people to love living in Royal Oak, we need to give them the best that we can give them. And I think we're maxed out. So I'm not saying like, piece of cake, let's just hire 20 more people, because I don't know that we can do that with the budget that we have, but I think it's something we need to be mindful of, that there are ever increasing costs with what we're doing. It's not just putting in a new park and yay, it's done. It's like we have to maintain that park and we're going to need people to do it. So Aaron's heard me say this before, but that's what I care about, is making sure that we have the staff to provide the services that our residents have been repeatedly asking for and wanting. And I will say this, Mike, about the golf course, that in my small group, I said again, what I've said here is that I want to just tear that building down and put a beautiful building up that people will want to rent out as like a conference space and to have host weddings. And John told me I couldn't do it.
I didn't
So
say that.
Blaine, yeah, I did.
Oh,
I had another
That's what
idea.
John said. Yeah, exactly.
I'd be
Yeah.
all in for that, Melanie, if you could find a couple $1 million.
I'll be all in for no pool. I'll trade you that for a pool.
Yeah, no
Oh
pool.
yeah, I also asked for a pool and they told me I couldn't have that either.
Ah.
sounds like brainstorming has a lot of judgment and a lot of yes and no requests. I feel like in brainstorming is where we bring ideas and we don't judge and we don't say no, guys.
Aaron wasn't even in my group where I said the pool. He's just saying no.
I could
Gotta
hear
draw a
it.
line.
So I perked up and I heard her say it.
We need to find that person that won the $1 billion out in Novi in the lottery and see if they would like to put their name on a building in Royal Oak.
Well, so I mean, Mike, it brings me to what Paul Brake, the city manager, was talking about with like some of these partnerships with there might mean like maybe Beaumont would be willing to slap their name on a building if maybe they could host some conferences there. I mean, I don't know if they're, I don't know. I'm just making that up. But my point is we don't actually have a premier conference facility that's like beautiful like that or something that, I mean, if my kids want to get married in Royal Oak, I'm not sure where they do that.
In the new city park, in the new downtown park.
Farmers market.
The farmers market, that's true, that's beautiful, but it's, I mean, it's like a warehouse building. It doesn't look out on a golf course, I'll tell you that.
But they fixed it up so nice for weddings.
I know it does. You're right. It's gorgeous. It's totally gorgeous for weddings. You're right. But anyway, I have been pushing for that. But John wants to take my money and spend it on a recreation center in another spot.
So if I could jump into the comments of Commissioner Macy and Crystal, I don't want to get into specifics about the budget because it's really early in this process, but we are carrying that with us, all of those ideas, mainly the concern for longer term maintenance and just overall improving the maintenance we have, getting, making an ask for some reasonable staff, but also then forcing ourselves to get creative about what can we do differently? How can we sort of shake ourselves out of the groove and improve that? So those all are themes that we're carrying with us as we're working on it. And we're going to include a lot of specific asks, but you know how the process goes. It's got to make some cuts, and there ultimately will always have hard choices that have to be made. So, but anytime in between now and the time that we finalize a budget outside of the scope of this, we're willing to hear ideas, and you're free to email John and I at any point.
And I will say to kind of piggyback on that, everyone that has spoken already, we have put together something similar, in our budget pieces or kind of in our plan to keep in our minds going forward, everything that pretty much anyone has said, where maintenance, upgrading the golf course in a particular way and, stuff like that. So great ideas, everyone.
I do also want to just point out, I do appreciate that when you do bring us these proposals for new parks, that you are looking for creative ways to increase the lifetime of them, the drop zones and things like that, that may have different maintenance costs, but seem to have some benefits and things like that. So I do appreciate the creativity that your team is bringing to us for those things, because I think they look great and they are better solutions and they're safer. So I do appreciate those things as well. I don't want that to go unnoticed. Yes, Joe.
Quick question. And again, as a novice member of the group, I apologize if there's any naivete behind my question, but when we're talking about long-term budgets, right? Like I have young children, and one of the things that keeps me vested in this community is the access to the amazing parks and the facilities we have. And so, one of the reasons I wanted to join this board was to, be a good steward of that and keep that going for, the neighbors and the community. And so I'm just curious about the history of any like ballot or voter initiatives or any bond initiatives, or how, if that's even part of a process that this board would consider to, promote or increase our maintenance and continue to be able to maintain those parks.
Sounds like that's where we're headed potentially, right? I mean, a rec center would be multi-millions of dollars.
Joe, I can give you some historical perspective there again. Throughout, my over 10 years on this board and in the Normandy Oaks Task Force and some of the other issues. The subject of a Parks and Rec millage has been from time to time floated, and it's a touchy subject whenever you bring that up in the city, any kind of millage actually. It's a very sensitive issue. Melanie, if you want to jump in on that, I don't know if you.
It is. I can confirm it is a sensitive issue.
Well said.
Very
But
diplomatic.
you know what, though? I think in order to get some of the things like a recreation center or, some, show place type of facility, I think, at some point in time, the only way to accomplish that is going to be with some sort of extra funding. And, there are times when people are more receptive to a millage. And I keep bringing up, because I think it was Sterling Heights in the last year and a half or so, passed a Parks and Rec millage for their entire community. And it was overwhelmingly approved. It was, they had like a 70% approval rate on the referendum. And people were all in for a Parks and Rec millage. And some of that was specifically for, some facilities and new things that they did in the city. So I'm not saying it's never doable. In fact, I'd be all in for, throwing a few shekels into the pot for my taxes to improve the parks.
Absolutely.
So it takes a group, an organized effort to do that. You have to put together a full board committee and have funding for something like that. Having done the public safety millage a few years back, and I was on that committee, there are issues that are very popular, and then there's issues that are less popular. So I'll just leave it there.
Jen, do you want to talk? Or you just
I'm just
okay?
taking everyone's input in.
Okay. Anybody else have any other thoughts? So is it something that this board would need to do and form a committee, or if this is where we decide we need to go? I guess I'm just trying to understand I think Joseph is trying to get to, like, if that's where we landed, how would we go forward?
So I think that this body could form like an exploratory, what kind of and which would need to be done, right? Like, what would this millage be for? What are the needs that we have? What would be providing with it? And like what the number is, right? Like nobody's gonna approve a 10 mils millage. Even for Parks and Rec, which people love. So I think this body could do that. In terms of the actual campaigning for it, I'm pretty sure we can't do that. I know I can't. I guess.
You have to be not appointed or elected to be part of that. But I know when we did the public safety millage. No, that's right, because Shar Douglas was on that committee, and she was not yet on the city commission. So that was that was an exception. I want to go back to one thing at the beginning of the meeting, and we just briefly touched on it, and that was the master plan. And I think that would be an integral ingredient to anything we would do going forward. And
that's what I was.
The master plan could include something in the along the lines of future funding, especially if you do a survey. And John and Aaron, the last time we did the Parks and Rec master plan, the person that took that on as the project and did an exceptional job was Stuart Meek, who was the assistant to the city manager at the time. And he put together a team. I think they even got some interns that were working in the city at the time. And they were the ones that spearheaded that master plan, along, getting resident surveys and put all the data together and created the master plan that we eventually approved. So I think that's an important piece to this whole project or system, whatever we're doing going forward. And you might want to talk to the city manager see what the plans are for that project, the master plan.
I think that seems like a good starting point. Like step one is to see what the community and what we want to put in that master plan, and then gives us a better idea of how much and what we want to go after. I mean, I'm certainly on board with you, Joe. If you want to do that, like we can talk through that when it gets to that time. I'm happy to help you, and we can all talk about what that exploratory committee looks like, or task force looks like.
I'm happy to see the thumbs up from Commissioner Macy on that.
And I like Mike's idea too of seeing if we could get an intern. Aaron, ask Paul if we could have an intern this year.
I think they're called fellows.
Fellow. Say.
Yeah. I think
Don't
you're
write
right.
down intern, John. I said fellow.
Yes.
Ask for the right thing. Like might help us get a little closer to getting one. All right. Any other thoughts, comments on budget talk? Kind of when would be when do you really kind of have a finalized plan? Like I know you said over the next few weeks to send you ideas if we come across them. Kind of like what's the drop dead date for you? Kind of just give us a ballpark.
Like by late February, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And that's when we're really starting to submit things to other departments for review.
Okay.
It's to be changed up until the time the city commission votes on it. So.
Okay. So you guys got a couple weeks. So if you have anything, some amazing brainstorms, get them over to John and Aaron. All right. Next is Art in the Parks. This is a request by, is it Joseph or Joe?
Joe's fine. Most people call me
Joe.
Joe.
Okay. Joe had asked to be put on the agenda, so I'm going to hand it over to him to walk us through this. It's something he brought up last meeting, and we want to continue the discussion about.
Sure, thank you. So again, as a resident, I love the parks and we enjoy the parks and we spend a lot of time there throughout the year. And one of the, just through kind of brainstorming last session, we had talked a bit about ways to maybe beautify the parks or ways to celebrate the parks or ways to advertise, market the parks, just to draw more attention to some of them. And so I think I'd reached out to a couple of you guys via email and discussed maybe a potential relationship with some of the art programs in Royal Oak and leaning on them a little bit to, it's kind of like cheap labor to do some of this marketing for us. Like as a high school teacher, I'm always looking to exploit the labor of my students, right? And so, with my wife being the art teacher at Royal Oak Middle School, she was very excited about this idea and had some really great ideas about getting, whether it's her students, she's worked before with like the Royal Oak Commission of the Arts and helped put on some presentations at the middle school, whether we worked in conjunction with them, whether it's reaching out to the high school and, encouraging maybe art clubs to, have certain activities that would be highlighting the parks. I think there again is just an opportunity where we could utilize some of the resources that we have that would be very inexpensive to market our parks and to highlight them. Whether it's like something as simple as like an art students creating a hashtag and posting that on Instagram or Twitter, or whether it's an art club coming up with a project. Or whether it's even something maybe a little bit more formal where in the warmer months we do have like organized art activities in the park, where we have an art teacher or an artist from the community volunteering time to have people come and do some kind of art or craft in the park, or having a band perform in the park. Those types of activities I think are just such amazing draws and anchors for a neighborhood. So I was hoping as part of this committee we could start to explore some of those options.
Joseph, would your wife be interested in potentially, doing some classes for the recreation program, like in the summertime where maybe she's not as, busy with school, whatever?
I think I think the short answer would be yes. We travel a lot in the summer, so we're in and out a lot. But I think if we were to be able to set up a schedule, yes. I think she'd love that.
Yep.
She runs an art club now and she's always looking to do outreach activities.
Because one thing I've been trying to do is trying to get more like scientific, we had like and I think it didn't run because of the platform. It was like a virtual, like science, like build your own robot type classes. And I don't think it ran because of the platform. But trying to get a little bit more of that stuff kind of into our programming. And I've had a couple, we have like a watercolors class, but it's for like the adults and everything. And that's a pretty popular class, but trying to maybe get more of our youth and teens and maybe even some of our younger adults into this programming as well. So, I mean, I'd be more than happy to, work with you and maybe set up some sort of path to, it could be a program. It could be, like a 3-week program. Most of our programs are, your 8 weeks, whatever, but we do have some, single programs. We have a cooking class that just runs, once every 2 weeks type of thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
No, I was actually, we were kind of talking about it over dinner, and she had actually had some ideas just for things like that, where it'd be like, you could have some either, any age group really, they could do like a nature rubbing or a nature painting or, some kind of jewelry making with just, natural resources from the park, or some cheap materials that, we could somehow find a way that either people could volunteer or, we could purchase. And so I think there's just, I like what you're saying, John. I think there's an opportunity where we could bring these two groups together and have some really cool opportunities in the park in the warmer months to just, celebrate the arts.
Yeah.
Joe, I love the idea and I love the energy behind it. I would make a suggestion that we invite the Commission for the Arts in Royal Oak to partner with us on this. They have done some terrific things the last couple of years. Jason Gittinger, I believe, is still the chair of that group. The pianos downtown, as an example, that they have done the last couple of years. Murals on some of the buildings, but a lot of that's been focused to the downtown. And if we can bring that those ideas and that energy to the parks, I think they would be a good partner to have on that.
I would love a couple things. So for supplies, have you ever heard of Arts and Scraps? It's an organization that takes and recycles parts and for kids projects. It's out of Detroit. We do volunteering there. I can work with you offline about that, but that might be an opportunity for us to integrate some STEAM activities and things like that for fairly cheap. Like you can buy fairly decent, like large bags of supplies and things like that. But I'd like to challenge us or encourage us to come up with a program that focuses on the city and the history of Royal Oak. This is 100 years. And like, maybe we do all these things, which I think are amazing, but like, can we come up with a recommendation for focusing on our parks as such an integral part of the history of Royal Oak? And I'd like to try to come up with a cross section there to celebrate our 100 years. So just something to throw out there. Yes, Christian Racy.
Are you saying no to our brainstorming, Sarah?
Yes, no. I love all of those ideas and we should do all of that, but I do think that the original conversation started out with about how to celebrate our history. So I don't want to lose sight of that. That's all.
It's funny. I thought it was celebrate our parks. I was going to say, I feel like Joe just blew my mind because last time I thought we talked about like having like a photography contest of our parks. And I had been kind of noodling on that and thinking like, gosh, how else can we do art in the parks and other things. I was thinking like maybe we could like have a class come and like paint one of the sidewalks around the park and like have it be like a mural project. Or I thought of like a mandala, those like rock art kind of that you put out. I was thinking things like that, and you just named like 45 other ways to get arts in our park that had not even crossed my mind, and that is amazing. And I love the idea of having it be something that we do. I think Sarah's right. Like we could focus this first one probably on like the centennial. I don't know if it has to be like history. I think it could just be like a celebration of Royal Oak. But I think it would be great if we had something like every season that we would have. And I was thinking the same as Mike. I was thinking if we had a contest or something, we could have the Commission for the Arts be the judges for that. So they could choose the ones that we select, and we could be, choosing where in the parks they go. And things like that. But it seems like it's such a great crossover. And I told you last time that your wife was never going to have any of my children because we're not great artists, but I was wrong because I have a sixth grader, and so she has your wife right now.
Oh, wow, great. Yeah, and I have to give her credit, for a lot of these ideas, quite honestly. And the discussion really did start about how we could find ways to get, the students in the community to be advocates for the parks, right? And I think we first started with like, hey, like, we could have a photojournalism type of, assignment. I think the problem we're running up against right now is with the way schools have had to respond to COVID. Trying to introduce anything to any new teacher's curriculum at this point would just be really difficult. But if there is an initiative where we could have something for next year, where when the kids come back to school, we could even, whether it's an extra credit project or whether it's part of the curriculum, we could lean on those schools and those teachers to encourage, maybe a photojournalism project that does highlight the beauty of the parks or the history of the parks and the bridges, or, something in the city of Royal Oak that is kind of showcasing the history of it. And so I think, that's where our discussion started. And if you've ever talked to an artist, normally that discussion goes way off topic into a lot of other great ideas. And that's kind of how this one was. So hopefully we can bring some of those ideas to fruition.
I also think it would be a great opportunity for us to think about some of the more digital arts. Like, I'm currently going to school for like graphic design, and I think that would be exposing kids to how art can take more digital forms. I think that might be an interesting, with the scene, I know we have some computers and things like that, but that might be another avenue to explore in this programming. So, go ahead, Melanie. Commissioner Macy.
So you can call me Melanie.
Okay.
So our centennial is this year, and I hear what you're saying about that. But I mean, one thing what if we the Parks and Rec, maybe talking to your wife though, come up with some kind of a contest, and we don't ask the teachers to do anything for it except tell their students it exists.
Yeah.
Like, could we still do something like that this year?
I mean, would this be something you'd want to limit to students, or would it be open to any members of the community?
I guess I was thinking, because we had talked about it before, like young people.
Young people.
So
okay.
presumably students, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Royal Oak public school students. Like, it could be, I think
homeschool or
What did you say, Susan? I'm sorry.
I said like homeschool kids, and
You could probably
Yeah.
set an age,
Like under 18 or
under
under.
type of thing.
Yeah,
I mean-
they
Maybe a
live
youth
or,
initiative.
they live or go to school in Royal Oak.
there you go.
So, and then my wife did have another suggestion / question about it. I mean, would this, like, is there a carrot? Like, is there like a reward? Are we offering like like they can't offer a scholarship, but is there some kind of like incentive for students to want to get involved? Which I know like there shouldn't be, but you know how kids are.
So Joseph,
Monetary. Yeah.
So Joseph, I run one of the art fairs in Royal Oak, not for the Commission of the Arts, but just the art fair at Royal Oak, Memorial Park. So just kind of off the top of my head, off of what right now, I mean, if you would do a contest, the way I would do a contest is you would almost want to split it into tiers, because you don't want to have someone that's 17 competing with someone that's 6. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? So you may have like an elementary age group, then you have a middle school age group, then you have like a high school age group, and then you select a winner or two from that. We have an arts council that donates some of the proceeds from the arts fair to scholarships to students, provided that they major or go into some sort of art programming in college. So, one thing that we can do is, when we have this contest, you can say, hey, if you guys win the contest, we'll let you, showcase your art at the art fair and maybe sell some of your art if that's something that you guys would be interested in doing. And then also put them up in a competition to receive some sort of monetary scholarship. Now it's usually, $1,000 to $2,000 that the Arts Council does. Now this Arts Council is different from the Commission of the Arts. So just keep that in mind. But this Arts Council, I mean, they do donate some of the proceeds from the arts fair to the scholarship. So that's, there's a reward in itself right there.
It's way bigger than I was thinking.
So Joe, maybe could you put together maybe like a loose proposal of how this would work? And I can work with you offline if you need help, or like work with your wife of how we'd structure this a little bit. I think we need some, I
Sure.
think I think, and then if you can bring that back to next meeting, that would give us more tangible things to make motions and vote, and then figure out what the next steps are. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I guess I would just ask right now for a little bit of just direction or consensus from the group. I mean, do we want it to do we want it to be celebrating the parks? Do we want it to be celebrating the parks and the history? Is there a certain theme that we would like to see kind of running throughout this, or no?
That I think, if I can interrupt, I think what we ought to do then is have, like we do for a lot of these little ideas, is to have a sub work group.
Yeah.
Select here tonight, and then hash out some of these details, and then bring some more detailed proposals back to the board.
Yeah.
Joe, it looks like you have two members of your committee, Sarah. And,
Well, I'm not on the task force anymore, so I have plenty of time now.
I will do one thing that I have enough committees. Also, I'm on the Chamber of Commerce board, and I've got a thing. I'm tied in with the membership committee for the 100th anniversary of the chamber, which is also the 100th anniversary this year, along with the city. So I got my plate pretty full. But I will reach out to Jason Gittinger, who's chair of the Arts Commission, I believe. Not that I'm getting them all confused here, John, but to see if there's any interest, and then I can put him or anybody from the Arts Commission in touch with you or Sarah or Melanie, however you guys want to handle it. But I think it would be very important to get them on board.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Mike, if I may interject, I would almost rather work with the Arts Council than the Arts Commission, because that is a board that I oversee. So if this contest was to get into the art fair or receive any sponsorship, I have the connection with the Arts Council. I don't have any connection with the commission. And it's not to say that we can't do both, but I would also just keep that in mind as well.
No, I hear you, John. And I think that your idea of having it, some sort of reward or celebration done through the Arts Council is the attraction. There's some motivation for the kids, but I think it would be helpful to at least see if the Arts Commission has any ideas or any way they can support us in this effort. Again, it seems to me that a lot of their work tends to focus on downtown, and as far as I know, it's not an arts commission for downtown. It's an arts commission for the entire city, and certainly the parks would be a big part of that. If it's okay, Joe, Melanie, I would just reach out and just take their temperature a little bit and see if they have any interest at all, and then just tell them that we'll get back to them.
Crystal, did you have something? I felt like you had your hand up, or maybe I just misread your cue. I'm bad at Zoom body language.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it. I love the idea. I've always been interested in having more art in the park, and I like the idea, Sarah, of yours to include different forms of to think about other types of media that we could use, like where parks and recreation, as well as senior, we are the board for seniors, and for digital media, I was thinking even in the newsletter, like showing a graphic could be like an incentive for someone to submit a digital submission. And then also we talked about high school because of the connections that we have with Joe's wife, as well as with the Art Council and the Art Commission. What about institutions, or even just thinking about students? So like, Sarah, you go to a school, I don't know where your university is, but you're physically in Royal Oak.
Delaware.
It's in Delaware.
I do all my stuff online.
You're physically here, so we could think about like involving people here who are, student artists in Royal Oak, and then also schools that teach art, like Oakland Community College, I think is downtown, and I don't know where if they just have that one campus, but I believe they have programming for art classes. And so if we have any connections, I guess like the starting point would be to see how expansive our individual networks are here on the board, and then what we could mobilize. I like the idea also of maybe somehow scheduling this in. We can start with this, but as a board, to be conscientious of how we incorporate art into the park. I think this is what Aaron was talking about, is thinking outside the box or getting out of our grooves, how we do things differently. To
I would like to
add
have an art, I would like
diversity.
to have an art park. I'll be honest, like it's like there's a sculpture, like an art sculpture park in Detroit. It's
Yeah.
really cool. So we have big dreams, Aaron. We'll just keep you busy.
Thanks. I think we can't lose no matter which route
Yeah.
we go here. I think we
Yeah.
engage both of those groups, and it will bring art in all forms of the park if we wanted to. I think those are the groups that have the good ideas that we need to let loose. So let's see where it goes with a smaller group, and we can
Yeah.
bring it back.
So the plan is that we'll meet offline outside of this, and then we will bring back a more formalized proposal to figure out kind of some ideas around some different ideas. And like we can have 2 or 3 things, and then we can, as a team or board, can figure out which one works best for us and timing and how to go about advertising it and all those things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
as I
sounds great.
understand, was it Joe and Commissioner Macy that volunteered? Yep.
And Sarah, right? And Sarah.
And Sarah, yes, I'm sorry, Sarah.
The graphic design student wants to help out.
Yes, you're in.
Okay.
I did
All
excellent
right.
stick figures.
Yes, I can make them now in Adobe Illustrator. So I can make fancy ones.
You know, and real quick, if I may add, you know,
Sure.
there's a lot of new members on this board, but we had a discussion about a skate park, and I think having some sort of sculpture or I'm going to say graffiti wall, for lack of better, incorporated with a skate park would
I
be
love it.
an awesome component, and that's pretty much adding art to our park. So that's one thing. And then also, as far as like the graphic design aspect to it, you know, we have the Royal Oak Leprechauns, you know, branding their logo for an art student, graphic design would be huge. You know, even creating a logo for like the Sandlot League, the football clubs, our football clubs, even like the ice arena, stuff like that. I mean, so there's, you know, I think there's a lot of things that can be done. That's it.
And if you
It
want
seems
some,
it
like,
seems the skate park is a sensitive subject, but I love it. So I'm on board.
No,
It's not
it's
sensitive,
just
it's
an
just expensive.
expensive park. I'm like,
We all were in favor.
We're all like, that would be sweet. But then the dollars came out, and then it kind of became like, not so sure. Definitely on the docket of thinking about it though.
What happened to the skate park they had by Memorial about 10 years ago?
So
Still there,
there's-
such it is.
Is it still there?
there's-
Is it being used at all?
It is. It's not a skate park, I will say. It's just
It's a couple
components-
ramps and yeah,
skate components in a tennis court.
yeah.
This
I mean,
was
this is more like a full-blown skate park.
this is like
Okay.
Tony Hawk's skate park kind of
Okay.
thing, Susan. This was
Ferndale-
like this was
Ferndale
real.
built one, so it's along those lines.
Yeah. This was like the real deal
Okay, okay.
with graffiti and all, apparently. I think we got the graffiti for free. I think we could. They weren't charging us for extra graffiti.
Cost of a can of paint.
That's right. All right. Anything else on arts in the parks? Great discussion, super exciting. Love where we're headed with this. I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of possibility. So thank you for bringing that forward. What else does the staff have to report on? I feel like we've had lots of staff reports today, so.
I was looking at that item on the agenda and I thought, well, at some point or another, I think I touched on anything that I would want to talk about at this meeting, but I'd be willing to answer any questions. John, do you have anything else?
All I have really to say is we have 3 classes running at the Salter Center for the recreation program, and then we also have a couple classes running at the senior center. The classes at the Salter Center have been going on for 3 weeks now, so they've been a little bit longer, and we haven't heard really any negative news or any really positive news. So we were kind of under the impression that everything was going well. And then I got a phone call today and someone was like, I love what you're doing. We had 15 kids in a youth basketball class. We had 12 kids in a sports starter class, and we had 15 kids in the little youth gymnastics class. And even though it's a small sample size, they really appreciate the effort that, that our departments have been putting in. Even the stretch and strength class over at the senior center, all the protocols that we've put in place to make sure our residents are safe and participating in classes. So it was good to kind of get a little bit of feedback, because like I said, 90% of the people enjoy it and they're not gonna, say anything. It's 10% of the people don't like it. They'll make but we never really get positive feedback. So I was excited to get that. So hopefully, we'll be able to roll out more classes in the springtime at our Salter Center. But this slow rollout is going smooth so far.
That's great
That's
to
all.
hear. Thank you. Anything else? Yes, Melanie.
So John, now that contact sports can start on Monday, are they going to make that basketball camp a basketball league?
The youth basketball?
Yeah.
It's just a introduction. I mean, they do like some basic drills. There's no it's not like
They
a league.
normally do a league, right?
The Boys and Girls Club has a league, yes. That's separate from the city.
Oh, all right. I gotcha. I thought I got them confused.
Yeah,
Same location though, right?
correct.
I gotcha. Okay. Anything else in our very busy agenda today, in our items on the business agenda? All right, moving on to items not on the agenda. I have one, and it's not the dogs, just so you know, Aaron.
Whoa.
Shocking as it is, although I was going to offer them up as subjects for art if you ever need practice, because they love to sit patiently and have their portraits drawn.
Ryan gave us our fill of dogs for this meeting, right, Ryan?
Yeah. I give you a dog park that we can work towards, Aaron. So that Shaggy Pines, that would be a good model.
I'll examine the link. I haven't yet, but I will.
All right. No, I just wanted to let you know the AARP task force. I was reached out to by Karen from the AARP, and I will be meeting with her and Carol, I think in a couple of weeks, to talk about kind of our status and where things are. So I should have a better update next time we meet. But I just want to let you know that they reached out to us to talk through the process and see where we are.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. And I will find out in that meeting how many, who's still even involved. And if there's any opportunity for our board to get involved, I will certainly bring that messaging back.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's all I had. Going once, going twice, 3 times, you're out. Okay, moving on to upcoming events.
So the Valentine cookies, when I wrote this, there were still some openings, but now it's sold out. But just so you know, they're handing those out on Wednesday the 10th and Thursday the 11th of this month. And then the Irish Tavern, they're doing another Irish Tavern curbside meal. This is for St. Patty's Day. So if you guys are interested, make sure you call the senior center, reserve your spot.
We think we're serving at that one, aren't we, John?
Aaron and I will be there. Yep.
Yeah.
That's not on the flyer. You should put that on the flyer.
That would probably draw thousands,
Special guests.
That's a
special guest.
You're not supposed to know that.
You shouldn't have said anything. All right. Anything else, you guys? All right. Then I think we're ready to adjourn. We just need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Crystal seconds. I'll go ahead and do the vote. We'll start with Joe.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
Crystal.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Does your dog approve as well?
Yeah, everybody's approved.
Okay. Melanie.
Aye.
And I also approve. So that passes unanimously. It was a great meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week and look forward to seeing you next month.
Bye.
See you guys.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
Good job, Sarah.
Bye,
Well
Aaron.
done.
Bye, John.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Like a boss, Sarah, like a boss.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah and Melanie, do you want me to just reach out to you guys via email to get the ball rolling
Well,
on this
actually,
idea?
if we're all here right now, should we just do it?
Can we get it to stop recording?
You, I think, can. So
I
at the top, because I think you're an owner of this, aren't you? Or is it just John and Aaron? Oh,
Just John and Aaron.
okay. Well, then no. Let's just meet offline.
Okay, yeah.
I can send out a Zoom link. We have a Zoom account if you want. If you guys, I'll send it. You send an email to all of us, and I'll respond with like, let's pick a date and we can meet, and I can do
Okay.
Zoom for us. Okay.
Okay, so you would preferably, would you like to meet like next week or shortly thereafter? Next
That
week?
works for me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.